motivation for me to be a boxer was actually the neighborhood I grew up in. It's pretty tough, the struggle, my family. Growing up in a house with 9 brothers and sisters was always challenging because you didn't know who was going to try to put more food on their plate. If it was leftovers, I'd be up in there sneaking and eating. Hey, get out of there, get out of there. I'd be on top of the counter on my knees, eating out of the plate, eating out of the skillet or whatever it was. I grew up in Watts. It's a little city in Los Angeles. It's also known as the neighborhood. I mean, it was tough, but I didn't know how tough it was. I was living in it. It was always gangs, violence. I almost lost a brother. That was it for me. I saw everything that was happening to him, and I mean, it wasn't happening for me. My mom had 9 kids. Out of the 9 kids, I'm the first one to step out to really try to do anything. I don't want to be just like everybody else. I took up boxing when I turned 17, as soon as I got out of high school, and I never looked back. This would be my first television fight in America. Boxing was my first sport, and I plan on it being my last.
Being immortalized in that 2004 Willie Gibbs fight, every fighter wants to have something. And that boxing was always bigger for me. It wasn't about me actually boxing. I wanted to leave a legacy of doing something to help. I've motivated and inspired 2, 3 generations of Haitian boxers. I trained so many fighters, and I've trained 2 generations of fighters now, and I'm training these guys. I'm sparring with them, working out with them. Their thing is like, yo, man, why are you not fighting? Fight. Why are you not fighting? In the process of doing that, that the bug did come back. I haven't won in quite some time. So being able to win that opportunity, that experience, and of course, the hopes of getting a world title, I get another opportunity to actually walk in that dream.
All right, so here we go. As Teddy Atlas so eloquently put it, it's time to find out who's the lime and who's the coconut. Down to Joe Tessitore.
Thank you, Todd, as we are getting underway here. Opening fight of Boxcino's middleweight tournament. We will start with Brandon Adams, 24-year-old, 5'9", came in at 160.8, 12-0, 8 knockouts. First fight on TV. And he's opposite Daniel Eduord, the Haitian sensation, back from retirement, was out of action for 3 years, well-experienced middleweight, had that fight of the year type fight back in 2004, an all-time classic on our air against Willie Gibbs. Now 33 years old, comes in with a mark of 23-4. It'll look like a champion, brought to you by Just for Men.
Well, let's start with the line. I'll make Adams the line. He hasn't fought in over 3 years. Jump on him early. And Eduord.
Remember, 6-round fights here in the quarterfinals of Boxcino, and Kurt Spivey is our referee.
Okay, guys, we've already received your direction to the dressing room. Obey all commands. Protect yourselves at all times. Touch gloves. Back to your corner. Good. Fighter ready? Ready? Let's go, guys.
Last fight for Daniel Eduord was January 2011 against Peter Manfredo Jr. Lost a 10-round decision.
And, you know, he said after that fight that if he lost that fight, he would retire. And he was good to his word until now. He was gone 3 years and 1 month, and something changed his mind, and maybe it was something called the Boxcino tournament. He's lost his last 2 fights, Eduord. I thought he had a look of a, I'm not going to use the word shot, but definitely a shot-worn fighter at the end of his career, or what looked like was the end of his career 3 years ago, last time he was in the ring. His legs didn't look good. But we'll see whether or not that time away has revived him at all. I remember somebody named Evander Holyfield many years ago. Looked like a shot fighter, fought Bobby Ches. And, oh, everybody had kind of written him off, and he came back and had a pretty good second career. I don't know if you can say the same for Eduord, but we'll see how he does tonight.
Just before we got underway here, you said Brandon Adams, one of the keys would be to jump on Eduord early. We haven't seen that.
No, we haven't. And he's not taking advantage of the fact that Eduord has a lot of rust to deal with.
Instead, it's Eduord landing a short right hand on the inside.
Eduord in his career, he's just taken a lot of punishment throughout that career. He's always been a game guy, but he has been knocked out 2 times. With much more experience is Eduord. But the question again, what does he have left? And that is the question. Because Adams, really, Eduord's in a decent spot for a guy who's been away 3 years, if there's such a thing as a decent spot. Adams only 6 amateur fights, and Adams 9 years younger at 24 years of age. This is the first fight not on the West Coast for Adams. All his fights have been in California, Mexico, and Washington State. So new terrain for him. And the heaviest weight for Adams, Joe, in over 2 years.
How about the fact that Adams, talk about the inexperience, he's the only fighter in this tournament who hasn't gone 6 full rounds, and he's never been past the full 4-round distance in this early stage of his career.
That's going to matter if the pace picks up and Eduord uses his experience, if he has legs to do it, uses his experience to pick up that pace. Make Adams think a little bit about what you just said.
You can log on to Facebook, the Friday Night Fights Facebook page, and judge this round as well as all the fights tonight. Going to take a short break. Be right back. ESPN Friday Night Fights is presented by Corona Extra, who invites you to find your beach. And in part by True Biotics, a daily probiotic that helps support digestive and immune health. And Taco Bell, sometimes you gotta live Moss. We're at the Horseshoe Casino, just outside Chicago in Hammond, Indiana, for Boxcino's middleweight tournament. Our first bout tonight, first of 4 6-rounders. Here in quarterfinal action, Daniel Eduord and Brandon Adams. And Adams may have had a big missed opportunity there in that first round. Not that Eduord did much of anything, but the rust, knowing he's coming off the 3-year layoff, not jumping on him right away.
And you let a guy like Eduord, who is a more experienced guy, who's 33 years old, who retired after his last fight, now he's coming back, you let him get confidence. You let him think, hey, this young kid isn't that much. And one of the reasons why I think, and I said earlier, that Eduord is in a good spot, if you can be in a good spot after being away 3 years, is, well, you look at Adams, you look at the record of his opponent, you talk about soft opposition, 7 of his 12 opponents, Joe, had losing records. And as like I said, Adams only 6 amateur fights, and a lot more amateur fights in the background of Eduord. Eduord had 86 of the amateur experience.
And to that point with Adams and the level of competition, I think that's something that can be thematic throughout this Boxcino tournament, of with some of these undefeated fighters uncovering exactly who they are based on the competition they faced. We saw it last week with an African fighter that went out early. We could see more of that tonight with 3 unbeatens we have on this card.
Yeah, in other words, what you're saying, plain and simple, is, you know, you could see some guys rise to the occasion and say, hey, there's somebody to watch. And that's what we're hoping the fans get to see. But you also get to see some guys exposed.
Right. Boy, that was the case last week in our final bout, when Nikwe was quickly exited in the 2nd round of the lightweight tournament. Here the 160-pounders fighting in a very small ring. Measured this ring out at 16 feet 4 inches here at the Horseshoe Casino.
Yeah, the promoter's trying to make action by making a small ring, and right now Adams making action by going to the body. Maybe the old body and maybe the old legs of Eduord are going to start to show.
Tremendous surge of offensive blows to the body by Brandon Adams. He went with a series of left and rights and even got an uppercut in the mix there.
I think it suddenly occurred, as it occurred to us, to Adams, that, hey, a slow pace can only help Eduord. At 24 years of age, 9 years younger, I have to pick it up. You have to hit the gas pedal a little bit here. Otherwise, I'm feeding right into what Eduord not only wants, but probably needs at this point in his life.
There's a good left hook combination there by the 12-0 Brandon Adams. Stepped up the pace here.
Yeah, Eduord trying to use that experience, grab a little bit, slow him down a little. You know, you're going to have a plane takeoff, you need a runway. Well, if you're going to go to the body, you need your opponent against the ropes. Adams saw that, and he went to work. Nice left hook behind the elbow. That's the key there, Joe. Good eyes by Adams, the younger man. He saw the opening was in the back of the elbow, not in the front. He aimed it there.
Brandon Adams, the 24-year-old from Southern California, came in 12-0 to this tournament with 8 knockouts. Actually had some pre-fight quotes where he viewed himself as a big underdog heading in here.
Well, not tonight, but maybe for the rest of the tournament, that could be true. But not when you're fighting a guy who hasn't fought in 3 years. Shouldn't be the underdog, should be the favorite. As a matter of fact, our man, my man, Bill Krackenberger, the great handicapper in Las Vegas, let me know that Las Vegas had the odds of Adams minus 350.
Makes sense. Crackman coming up with those odds there. Is Adams the fresher, younger fighter in the midst of his career against the trying to shake the rust off of Daniel Eduord.
Well, you're younger, and in this case, Adams also just full of more energy, a little quicker. Not only with his hands, but with his feet.
Just showed that moments ago. So he was able to get away from the counter attempt from Eduord.
You know, what's incredible about Eduord is that he comes in 160 pounds tonight. He's off for over 3 years, Joe, and he comes back 2 pounds less than the last time he was in the ring. That's almost amazing to me, but it tells you he takes good care of himself. He doesn't fool around or dissipate outside the ring, and he was probably not that far away from a gym.
His last fight, we told you, was January 2011. Brandon Adams' first fight was March of 2011, 2 months later.
Watch your head, guys. Watch your head.
And the highlight of Eduord's career was that war he had with Willie Gibbs. We called that fight in August of 2004. If you told me 10 years later we would be calling a Daniel Eduord fight, I'd tell you you're crazy. But here he is. And here we still are.
Yes, we are.
So who's crazy?
Thanks to the fans.
Exactly.
Hopefully he must be doing something right. And right now, what Adams
Oh, it's another left
right,
hand to the body.
Yeah, Adams is doing something right. He's going to the body again. That older body put a little pressure on. I'd be looking to apply more pressure if I'm Adams. You have an old car in front of you that hasn't been brought out on the highway for a long time. It hasn't had an oil change for a long time. Well, don't let it go 40 miles an hour. Get it up to 60, 70, and then see if that car starts to break down.
Welcome back to Friday Night Fights. Our next Boxcino middleweight bout will feature Sina Egbeko taking on Ray Gatica. And Egbeko said that his first memories of boxing are waking up at 2 in the morning to watch Azuma Nelson fight. He wants to inspire kids in his homeland to do the same thing for his fights. On the other hand, his opponent, Ray Gatica, he used to be a bully as a kid. His brother and his father took him into the gym, and that calmed him down and changed his life. He tried to leave boxing several times, but he said boxing would not leave him, and that's why he's back in the ring once again, looking to fulfill that dream of being a champion. Joe Teddy, it's time for some more action.
Thank you, Bernie. Gatika Egbeko coming up next here in our Boxcino middleweight tournament. Egbeko's another good example of what we were discussing earlier of what will we have in front of us, because he's a Ghanaian fighter, comes over from Accra, his first fight in the USA, and you look through his line by line and you can see what an easy road he had fighting back at home in Africa. We'll see what he offers up tonight. Round number 4, 6 rounders in the quarterfinal opening round of Boxcino. Last 2 rounds, Adams in control. Dominated that second round with the body work. Much closer first round, where Eduord landed that one right hand.
You know, I like
Facebook fans see it exactly the same way that Teddy sees it, 2 rounds to 1.
I like what I've seen with Adams a little bit. For a guy without a lot of amateur pedigree, you know, 24 years old, look, maybe he's got the right guy in front of him. We talked about that already, but you got to do the job. And so far, he showed me some versatility, some different dimensions.
Oh, there's a good left hook. He timed it perfectly, and Eduord went down hard.
6, 7, 8. Yeah, hands up. Walk towards me. You ready to go? Ready?
And remember now those old legs and all the weathering of the past. Can he sustain and hold up and survive this?
Well, I was just mentioning the different dimensions that I like about Adams. One of them was his counter-punching ability. That was a nice counter, well-timed left hook that put Eduord on the floor. You know, I like a guy that thinks in there. You know, doesn't just bring it, but brings it at the right time. Brandon showing you, Adams showing you a good mix of those qualities. An intellect to go with some physical ability. Now I think it's time, though, for Adams to push the pedal to the metal a little bit more. And this is where you get a peek, a portal into a guy. What is he? Is he a finisher? Or is he a guy that's satisfied to just go rounds? Right now, Adams putting a vote in the survival column a little bit. Like, not really, not yet showing the finishing sort of eye of the tiger to him.
2 times Eduord has been TKO'd in his career. Jermaine Taylor did it all the way back in 2005. Aramaseli Albert did it in 2007. Let's listen in to the corner of Eduord and show you what happened moments ago.
Huh? You want to go no more? Nah? All right, then that's it. It's over. Don't worry about it. Take your minute. Take your minute, but we're going to stop it, all right? All right, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know how it feels or you don't, you know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah, here. Rep.
Here comes the stoppage. Listen closely.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good? You sure? All right.
So you heard it moments ago as Eduord came in and said, I have no more.
Nice left hook there, timed well. That wasn't the best replay. We'll get another look at it. Get another shot at this left hook here. There it is. Steps in. He knew he could step in. He knew that he read Eduord's eyes. Eduord's eyes were off on the wrong direction a little bit. And what did he do? Adams used those quick legs, and he jumped right in.
Don't worry about that.
And it's a TKO victory in the opening round of Boxcino for Brandon Adams, who stays unbeaten. As Daniel Eduord went back to the stool, consulted with his trainer, Lou Martinez. Martinez asked him how he was feeling. He said, I don't have anything left. We're not going to continue. And at 33 years old, attempting to come back after 3 years off, that is it for Eduord. After he took that big left hand, went down, survived the rest of the round, but knew he had had enough.
Adams, after that first round, a lackadaisical round, maybe a fill-out round, you know, even though he had a 33-year-old guy who hadn't been around for 3 years, you still have to look at him. He looked at him, and then he saw what he saw. He saw what we saw, and he stepped it up and got rid of him.
And this was Curt Spivey as he went over after getting the attention from Lou Martinez, and Martinez informing him that that was enough. Let's send it up to the ring to Ray Flores.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Eduord could not answer the bell for the start of the 5th round for your winner by technical knockout. And moving on to the semifinals of the Boxcino 2014 middleweight tournament, Brandon "The Cannon" Adams.
So one of the undefeateds has passed on through to the semifinals. Brandon Adams, the 24-year-old who grew up in Watson, LA, coming here to advance his career, and he does so with a TKO victory over Daniel Eduord.